Hey everybody, Danielle here, founder of The Sedge, and back with you for another daily Facebook Live, part of my 4-week challenge. And if you were following along closely, you may have noticed that I skipped my first day in my 20-day challenge, 20 days being every weekday over the past 3 weeks, this week being the fourth and final week of the challenge that I set out for myself. And really on Friday, the day just got crazy and got away from me. And all of a sudden it was like 9 o'clock Friday night and I wasn't about to get on to do a live at that point. And I just thought that I would roll what I was going to talk about into today's lesson because, of course, it kind of all flows together. And truth be told, I may even skip another day of my predetermined challenge. Partly because A, I'm the boss and I get to decide if I'm going to change it. And B, I may have been a little over ambitious in designing my challenge for myself, considering that this Saturday I am getting married. So, which is great. It's really exciting and lots of fun, but lots of planning and lots of kind of last minute things. So when I set out to do the challenge, I figured, well, I will, just hop on live for those, last few days right before the wedding. And now I'm thinking, maybe not. Maybe I won't do that. But I'll let you know later this week how I'm going to wrap things up. But for today, what I want to talk about is lessons learned in kind of the last year so far, or the most recent year since running the Sedge. So we're officially in lessons learned from year 4. And I've said this a few times before during these lives, but I still can't believe it's been 4 years. That's pretty wild. But part of the reason it's flown by is because I've done a lot of side projects and other things along the way. And while I've been working on the Sedge, consistently in the background, some other projects and now businesses have surfaced since then. So in this last year, obviously a big thing that happened, which you might already know if you've been on my newsletter for a little while or following on this page, is that Solène and I, my friend who wrote this, co-wrote this book with me as well, that was our first big project, we decided to launch a membership site together, which is another format for providing learning and capacity building support for our audience of changemakers. And if you don't know, she works with people more one-on-one in consulting capacities, like month-over-month programs. And obviously I do more kind of online training for larger groups or more ad hoc, just-in-time type of training. So anyways, yeah, we had this idea, I guess, let's see, how did it start? I think we had an inkling that this could be a really great format or model for the type of training that we were doing and for our audience, you guys who are working on social enterprises. And so we had a bit of a hunch about what this could look like, but we wanted to take some time to develop, gather more insight from our audience and do some really good insight research from our audience. So this was going to be what I was going to talk about on Friday because it technically happened before the 1 year ago mark. But we launched kind of an initiative called I think it was the International Changemakers Survey, and to collect some information about where changemakers in the world were at today. What were they thinking about? What were they struggling with? What was working? What were the questions that they had? To kind of take stock of how people were doing at this time. And I think there's been a lot of research and surveys that are more focused on the charitable sector and, nonprofit leadership and philanthropy. There's always seems to be a survey, at least in where I live, and I'm sure where you are as well, about philanthropy, like how much money is being donated in your country, in your city, in your province, or even corporate giving, like where are all those levels at? So there's always lots of information about that, but there isn't as much about kind of the solo entrepreneur person with a dream to create an impactful business or who is running an impactful business, and what that looks like in terms of their current challenges and struggles. So we decided to start this survey and gather some insight on that. We seemed like it was we were a good mix to facilitate it, since we did have some existing audiences of that exact type of person. So what we discovered in the survey, and we've talked about this in the past, and we probably have a blog on it. Yes, we do. We have a blog on it. I will put the link because it goes into more detail about what we discovered in the survey. But as we suspected, the biggest challenges definitely pointed to things like feeling isolated, right? So not necessarily having a tribe of people to tap into who were on a similar path or had similar goals. Because as change makers work in the entrepreneurial space, obviously there's a ton of entrepreneurs all around the world, but not everybody, and there are a lot of ways for them to gather and to learn from each other, but not as many, obviously, specifically for social entrepreneurs. And so that was quite interesting to see that there was a clear need for a way to reduce that feeling of isolation and to connect with other people, other peers who are along the same path or going after the same goals. So that's a need that traditional entrepreneurs definitely have. And like I said, there's more solutions out there and ways for entrepreneurs to tap into a network of people. And those are great, but there was definitely a gap for a network or a community or an association, foreshadowing there, where changemakers could come and really be side by side in that journey, along sharing lessons learned, as I'm doing now, accessing training that was really relevant for them, not just trying to fumble along applying other types of business foundations to the impact space and what they were trying to achieve. And so that was one of the biggest needs that came up in the survey. And so that kind of gave us confirmation that this idea we had in the back of our heads would be a good one to move forward with. So we decided to launch Changemakers Association in June 2016, and it was really fun to get off the ground. Again, I think we launched it fairly quickly. If I'm thinking of benchmarks of how, time frames, we are probably chronically ambitious in our time frames. If you watched my live stream about publishing our book, again, we had a fairly short time frame, and we did that again with Changemakers Association. And part of the reason that we're able to launch so quickly and to get an idea into the world quickly is because we definitely approach it very lean. So if you guys have heard about that concept, lean methodology, where really you're building and testing and iterating very quickly on your ideas. So it's not spending a year, behind your computer in a bubble, building a fancy website and then launching it to the world or to crickets potentially, but instead to launch a minimal version of what you want to create and then grow it as you go, and grow it as you get input and feedback from your early adopters and your first customers, your first clients. So that was definitely the approach we took also with Changemakers Association. And within, I'm not sure when exactly we wrapped up the survey. I'll have to check in the blog when I post it here, but we probably wrapped up the survey and then made our plan to launch the association within a few months, like maybe 3 months tops. I know because we finished our book in March and we launched Changemakers Association. It was open for enrollment late May, and our first kind of official month was June. And in that time frame, we needed to pull a brand together, which I have a story about that. Pull a website together, and not just a few landing pages, but a full back-end membership site where people could join and obviously have a login and then access all of the training behind, like in the back end. So we built that, and then also populating our content. So we decided to structure the model where every month we would open or publish a new module of training. So we opened the Changemakers Association with 2 modules already done, with a promise to deliver one every month. And of course, members can join anytime and leave anytime. Now we have more options for packages. You can join for 6 months for like at a discount, or join for 6 months with extra support, extra accountability. So we have more options now, but we kept it simple when we were starting out. And we tried to keep the technology really simple as well. We had the help of a developer a little bit to kind of set up our payment processing and some of the website stuff. But other than that, we did it ourselves. And luckily had some practice and some experience with our other businesses. So we were able to move fairly quickly. I believe we had spent much of our online business learning curve in each of our respective businesses. And therefore, when we came together for Changemakers, it moved fairly quickly because we had kind of been through those steps before. And plus, there was 2 of us, so that made it a lot easier as well. So yeah, I think I didn't fully map out, okay, what I wanted to talk about. The survey for sure, approaching things very lean and quickly. So, I mean, we had the basic structure for the association. We had a monthly training module, a monthly mentoring call, and a private community. But there was a few things that we ended up evolving and changing as we got started, or after we got started. So we still have those 3 components. But for example, we shifted the forum, or the kind of the community platform. We started out with Slack, which is another kind of team sharing tool. And after a few months, well, it might have been 3 or 4 months, we were seeing it was tough to get engagement. And I think part of the reason was Slack isn't used by relatively that many people, or it's often used in companies, you know, where it could be part of the culture and you're just expected to use that platform. But for individuals like the people we had as members, it was a bit of a foreign platform. And therefore, it was harder to get people to go on there and check in and see how they were doing and to engage, right? So after a little bit of time, we decided to shift and go back to Facebook for a private community on Facebook, a private group. And I say back to Facebook because that's often kind of the first platform that people might think of when they want to have a community component to whatever they're doing. And it works really well because so many people are already connecting into Facebook every day. So it's a good home base, and you're not asking people to add a brand new platform that they don't regularly use. And it just integrates nicely with where people are already at. But originally we didn't want to use that because we wanted to have something that felt more professional, not more formal, but more professional for sure, and more kind of put together. Facebook, you know, is often for friends and family. And so we were hesitant to have our community there for a paid product, right? Anyways, long story short, we switched from Slack and went to Facebook, and now it's been great. We have a lot more engagement for those very reasons that I just mentioned. So, I mean, that's an example of approaching launching something new, and you really don't know necessarily what's going to work the best, but if you start, then you know. So instead of, you know, waiting to survey a bunch of people about their preferences, Slack over Facebook, or, you know, to do some research on blah, 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 we just tried one and then tried it out for a few months and then decided to switch. So that's an example of launching lean. And I guess another thing I was going to mention, and we talked about some of these launch lessons in our 1-year birthday party. So we had kind of an anniversary celebration, I guess 3 weeks ago now. And yes, we went over some of those lessons that we learned over the first year. And that was one of them. Another example was investing in technology. And so, like I said, we went very lean with our website, and luckily we're able to do a lot of it ourselves. But we definitely chose some tools, for example, our payment platform that was low cost, or it might have even been free. It was very bare bones, and quickly realized that something as crucial as receiving revenue for your business should be something you invest more in. But again, we were testing it out. We thought maybe this will work. And if it did work and it was a free tool, why not? But it didn't work that well. We had a lot of declined payments, and by no fault of our members, but just because of the way the platform talked to the banks, and the banks kept declining cards. So there was a lot more administration and follow-up and headaches, not only for our members, but for us as well. And so eventually we decided to invest in some better payment processing software, which was a big investment, but it has paid off so much since then in terms of reducing pain on our side and for our members. So I guess the lesson there is, try it, go for it, but don't be afraid to change your strategy once you're started and once you've launched. And I think doing something like that survey to check in with people ahead of time before we actually launched the community was a really great way to test our hunch and actually confirm that there was a need for this type of thing with our audience. And also it was a way to generate momentum and build some excitement before we actually launched. And we launched, like I said, in just a few months, and hit our opening goal for opening members, or first members in our first enrollment. We had, I think, 30 people join in the end, which was exactly our goal. So that was really great to hit as well. And over the last year, we've been growing that in different strategies. And now we're not really doing the open close launch so much, because we want to focus our time on our members, and we have some other great ways to bring in new members, and I can talk more about that another time. But anyways, that's pretty much all I wanted to share about this. But before I go, I do want to test. So this software that I'm using has a new update, and you can choose, oops. Oh my gosh, I hit the wrong button. I almost ended early. I meant to hit this button. Yes, launch lessons. So they have a new feature where you can change the background of this banner that you see below me. This one. Anyways, I just wanted to test that out before I sign off. And also to, let you guys know, I will be back a few more times this week, but potentially not every day as promised initially, because I am getting married on Saturday, and it's a big event. It's not just one event. I don't know if you guys have thrown a wedding, or I should say hosted a wedding, or been really close to somebody who's hosted a wedding. And it's not just the one event. There are several that have piled on around the weekend. It's pretty much the whole weekend has, a Friday thing, and then the ceremony, and an in-between thing, and then a dinner, and then a Sunday brunch. Anyways, it has expanded. So I will be back this week, but maybe not every day. Anyways, we will talk soon. If you guys have any launch questions, let me know, or questions about Changemakers Association. We have lots of great trainings and resources out of that side of my work. So let me know. Okay, bye everybody.